Hello, my name's Gavin. This is Genre Books. What makes a classic? Don't worry, this is not a question I'm going to try to answer today, but it is a question that Penguin Books has been grappling with for the best part of 80 years. And it all started so well. The first true Penguin classic was a new translation of Homer's The Odyssey, translated by E.V. Rieu. And he ended up being the general editor of this new Penguin Classics series from the 1940s until 1964. This is what a Penguin Classic looked like at the time. A simple black presentation with artwork from the appropriate time period on the front cover, and simple black spine with the penguin logo. That kind of design stayed as the staple of Penguin Classics for a good many years, and I think in around sort of the mid-80s, 1985-ish, we started to see this format. Still black, but with a cream or beige surround, again still with artwork from the appropriate time period, showing what might be going on inside the book. And the spines started to be colour coded. Red for English language, purple for ancient Greek or Latin languages, yellow for medieval or continental European languages, and green for anything else. This is the imprint, this is the design that I grew up with. It was replaced in I think about 2002 with this kind of design. Again, black with now a white stripe surrounding the book, and slightly changed yet again. A bit more of a cosmetic change, but retaining that new black look still. In the interim, Penguin expanded their conception of classics, their definition, with Penguin Nature Classics and Penguin Modern Classics. They expanded their ranges with enriched deluxe, popular, mini modern, little black and cloth-bound classics. There are hundreds and hundreds of titles in the series, and whilst they all may be considered classics, they can't all be winners. And in the move from the beige cream surround, which I want to be focusing on, when it went first back to black, we lost some titles along the way, and it's those particular titles I want to concentrate on. All of these are now necessarily rare. Some of them are now valuable, and I think all of them would be worth picking up if you were to see them in the wild. I am indebted to my wife for doing the legwork on this. Penguin don't make a big fuss over the titles that they've dropped for some obscure reason, so there's been a fair bit of research carried out in completing this hunt, and I'm going to be going through this roughly sort of alphabetically. The first book on the list I have is Phillippe de Commynes' Memoirs. This is dealing with the reign of Louis XI from 1461 to 1483, known as the first critical and philosophical historian since classical times. This is according to the Oxford Companion to English Literature. He was a knight of the court of Charles the Bold, I think Duke of Burgundy, correct me if I'm wrong, but he was won over by Louis XI and joined his court as advisor and became a chronicler of that time. This book first came out in 1972, made that transition to the beige format, but by the time we moved to the black, had disappeared off of the roster. The next book is The Fire of Love by Richard Rolle, 14th century English hermit, mystic and religious writer, known in the Latin as the Incendium Amoris. At the time, he was more widely read than Chaucer. Not so much now. It's an account of his mystical experiences, and these were widely read in the Middle Ages and in print for much of the intervening time. Still in print now, but just not by Penguin. If those two books seem a little bit on the obscure side, don't worry, we have some big name writers who have also been dropped. Ovid. These are the poems of Exile, Tristia, Expistulae, Exponto and Ibis. These were written after he was exiled by Caesar Augustus. Everyone's a critic. The next book was originally published under a nom de plume, Francis Compton Snow. This is Esther, and the writer was Henry Adams, much more famous for, well, firstly for writing a 9-volume history of the USA under the administrations of Thomas Jefferson and James Madison. Henry Adams probably equally as famous for being a grandson of a president, John Quincy Adams, and the great-grandson of a president, John Adams. Sticking with the New World, we have American Local Colour Writing 1880 to 1920, edited by Elizabeth Amas and Valerie Rohe. A selection of sketches of American life in the sort of the post-Civil War period, from writers as diverse as Kate Chopin, Pauline Hopkins, Hamlin Garland and Sarah Orne Jewett, amongst others. Going back in time just a tad for the next one, which was a 1993 printing from Penguin Classics, Ancrene Weiss, Guide for Anchoresses. Back in the Middle Ages, this is a piece of instructional prose on how to effectively conduct your religious devotions if you are an anchoress, who is someone who is secreted away into a little room and basically reading, contemplating and being devotional. This book was first, I don't know if you can use the word published, when it first came out in 1240, but it was first out in 1240. And fast forwarding 6 centuries to the next selection, Selected Poems of Matthew Arnold. Poet, cultural critic, he worked for Her Majesty's Inspector of Schools in the Victorian era, so necessarily some of his poems are a little didactic, but this selection includes his most famous poems, including works such as Dover Beach and Thesis, if I got that pronunciation right. And the last one for today is Augustan Critical Writing, edited and with an introduction by David Vermersley. So not Caesar Augustus this time, but just the Augustan age, so some 18th century critical works. So a couple of random choices there, and then some of the ones that involve the letter A, keeping this vaguely but not entirely on an alphabetical basis. Back next time with the letter B. Until then, bye.